Welcome to the Cory Lee Show, where our focus is on building leaders and transforming culture. My name is Cory Lee, and in each episode, I aspire to ignite something on the inside of you that encourages you to grow yourself and to make an impact on the world around you. Welcome to the Cory Lee Show. Well, hey guys, welcome back to the Cory Lee Show. Got a super exciting episode today. I feel like this is going to be a really good episode, but also one that's very practical and I think really timely because a guest today, his name is Dr. Phil Carson. Dr. Phil Carson, he is a doctor of pharmacy, but right now he is a functional medicine and wellness coach, coaching people from all over the world or all over the country, helping them that are looking for answers is what he said. I love that. But he's also an entrepreneur. He's been a youth pastor, and so he's got a wide variety of avenues that we can talk about. But Dr. Phil, I just wanted to welcome you on to the Cory Lee Show today, and just thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Cory. It's an honor to be here with you. I really appreciate the invitation and looking forward to our conversation today.
Absolutely. Well, I kind of gave a little bit of an introduction to where you're at today, of what you do, how you're helping other people, but kind of take us on the journey. How did you get from wherever you were to where you are today?
Yeah, that's good. It's a lot to the story, but I'm going to keep it brief. I could talk for a long time about this, but people ask me all the time, being a pharmacist, how did you get to where you are today? Why are you not, behind the counter? Why are you not practicing pharmacy anymore, traditional pharmacy? Because I was in that field for decades, actually over 30 years, and I worked for pharmacy corporations. I owned 2 pharmacies at one time, but it was my own health struggles that put me on the journey that I'm on today.
Yeah.
And back in my earlier days in pharmacy, I was struggling health-wise. I was dealing with some major digestive issues, major stress, anxiety. I was a newlywed in a pharmacy situation where the manager of the pharmacy I was working in decided to leave, and they made me the manager. And I wasn't ready for that, I don't think, because the stress of it was literally killing me.
Wow.
And I would come home at night, late at night, eat my evening meal, and within an hour or so, I'd be on the floor, curled up in a fetal position in severe pain. And I said, I can't keep living like this. There were so many foods that I could not eat that would make me sick. And I was taking a handful of medication. I was drinking a couple of bottles of antacid every day just to try to relieve the pain and the discomfort and to get through the day. And I walked in a bookstore one day, and I was looking around. There was a display of a brand new book that had just come out. And it was more like an encyclopedia than it was a book. And it was a big book called The Prescription for Nutritional Healing. It was written by a medical doctor and co-written with his wife, who was a nutritionist. So I picked it up, started thumbing through it, and I saw a section on digestive health. And I started to look at some, and I said, I need to get this. This may be some help for me. So I got it. I started applying the things that the doctor recommended in this book, and it literally changed my life, saved my life, I believe.
Wow.
And because I was able to get off all the medication, I was able to start eating things again that I could not eat before. The severe pain and discomfort I was experiencing every day was gone.
Yeah.
I got that healing.
Yeah. Well, I know you're still talking about your story. I was just curious, what was it a nutritional thing, or was it the medicine you're taking? Like, what was it that was causing the pain in the first place?
Well, it was partly a nutritional thing.
Okay.
It was deficiencies. Huh. And I found out through the information I got from this doctor and through a test that I did that I had a medical condition that I didn't know I had. It's a condition called hypochlorhydria, which is medical term for low stomach acid. And I was taking medications to block my stomach acid and to neutralize my stomach acid. when I should have been doing the opposite.
Yeah.
And when I started doing the opposite, I started taking things to give me more stomach acid or to supply me with the stomach acid my stomach was not producing in the form of a supplement. Then that's what changed. That's what did it. That was the main thing. And also probiotics. I started taking probiotics. I learned what probiotics really were. I knew from pharmacy, we had 2 probiotics that we kept in the refrigerator in the pharmacy. And they were never used, never prescribed, except for mainly in children who had diarrhea from taking antibiotics. And so that's only 2 probiotics I knew about at that time. And so it opened my eyes to the world of probiotics back then. And I started taking those, started recommending them as well to my patients. But that was one of the things. And also there were, because of the low stomach acid, I had some mineral deficiencies as well. And so started correcting all those, satisfying all those deficiencies. And it was amazing.
Wow.
How my health came back and I became vibrant again. Started, losing weight, got healthier, feeling better, was able to do more, enjoying life more.
Yeah.
And that's, it was truly, the title of the book, was may have been a little bit prophetic. I don't know, but, but that healing, and it brought healing to me. And that knowledge that I gained brought healing to me. And so that's one of the things that I love doing today is sharing knowledge with people and the things that I've learned over the years. And that transformation for me set me on a path to want to learn more.
Yeah.
And so I started taking courses because I tell people all the time in pharmacy, in traditional pharmacy, when I went through pharmacy school back in the 70s and 80s, I was taught the history of natural medicine, not the application of it. It was, it was all about modern medicine. This stuff was in the past. This is what they did, decades ago or centuries ago. It doesn't apply anymore. And so, but I learned different. And so all these nutritional things and supplemental things I started applying and I started learning about. So I started taking all these courses and I started traveling the country. They would have these courses at different cities on the weekends, and I would go and spend 3-4 days and learn from these doctors and nutritionists and other people in the field of functional medicine. It wasn't even called functional medicine back then. It was called holistic or natural medicine. And so, but anyway, that set me on the path to where I am today, and all the things I've learned, and I'm still learning. I call myself a lifelong learner because I love learning. I love finding out new things and learning new things that I can use to help people.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do today. I share that knowledge with people. I help people get to the root cause of what their health problems was, because that's what happened for me. When I picked up that book and started looking, that was my root cause. I found the root cause of my condition in that information.
Wow.
And so I'm always looking for answers for people, looking for that root cause, and that's how I got to where I am today.
Wow, that's awesome. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I may say this wrong, but the other day I was looking at a packet. Our daughter had something. I looked at it, and one of the ingredients, it said something about a what was it called? You may can correct me, but like a biomechanical food product, or like what is that?
Yeah.
Like what is that thing? And so some
bioengineered.
There you go, bioengineered food product.
Yeah.
And just kind of putting that into our food, and we're putting that into our body, and just kind of curious what that does. And so I know one of the things you and I have talked about is some of the stuff that's coming out in the news right now with RFK Jr. talking about make America healthy again, and some of those things. Those are things you've been talking about for, several years. And I would love just to hear you speak into some of that because I feel like it's really important right now. One of the things our background is in the gym space, and people would come to me all the time, and we talked about nutrition, and like nutrition, it's like it is your fuel. You don't put that cheap gasoline in a race car. You know, you don't put the E85 or whatever it is into a Lamborghini. You know, if you're wanting it to perform at a high level, and your food is your performance gas, if you will. And so, I love, you know, you can start that wherever you want to go. I would love to hear, what are you seeing that's coming out in the news right now? And what do you see as truth, and what do you see as like maybe more of food companies just marketing to us? And so I just love to hear some thoughts.
Well, that's good. You know, what you were just talking about the bioengineered foods. There's a lot of them out there, and I heard somebody say, you know, several years ago, something I was listening to. Doctor said over 50% of the foods that we eat today are not real foods. They're man-made foods. They're not God-made foods. And we should be eating more God-made foods. And there's a quote I have in my book, How to Live Until You Die, that says that 1/4 of what we eat keeps us alive. 3/4 of what we eat keeps our doctor alive. And so we're eating junk, basically. Just making us sick.
Wow.
And that's what's in the news today. And that's what you know, Kennedy is talking about. And Robert Kennedy's been talking about this for some time now, and it's becoming you know, more prevalent today in the news, with him, you know, with President Trump being reelected, and Kennedy being designated as a head of human health and services. He's going to be pushing for the food industry to clean their act up, and that's what we see. And you know, I tell people all the time, and I talk about it in my book as well, about the toxic foods that we're putting in our bodies on a day-to-day basis. I have one of the chapters talk about the 7 big toxins, and there are some foods out there that kids are eating, especially kids are eating every day, that contain all of these toxins in one food.
Wow.
And
what are some of those foods?
Well, one of them is a breakfast food that a lot of kids eat every day, and it's called a Pop-Tart.
Oh, wow. Wow. Pop-Tart.
Yeah. Something we never had in our house. And then another one that they eat as a snack, and I see probably most kids today, their favorite snack. It's called Doritos.
Doritos, wow.
Yeah. And you read the ingredients. And that's what I tell people. That's I think I'm a label reader.
Yeah. And
I encourage people to do that and look at the ingredients, look at what's in a package or in a product, in a food that you're eating. And you start seeing names and words that you can't pronounce, and you have no idea what they are. And there's abbreviations and acronyms and all these things that you see. It's loaded with toxins, most likely. And processed foods basically is what we're talking about. Yeah. And that's what Kennedy's bringing to the forefront. The processed foods that we're all eating. Yeah. And it's the root cause a lot of times of sickness and illness with a lot of people, especially our children. And we're feeding our children a lot of these processed foods every day, and even ones that are so-called healthy foods sometimes are really not. Yeah. And I see that a lot, and I point that out to people a lot. I'll just share this with you real quick. This is something a lot of people don't know and think that they pick up a loaf of bread at the store, and it said they see on the label whole grain, big bold letters, whole grain, and they think, well, and I ask people all the time, are you eating bread? Yeah, I eat bread. I said, well, what kind of bread are you eating? I said, well, it's whole grain bread. I said, where do you get it? I get it at the grocery store. And I said, well, are you sure it's whole grain bread? Yeah, it says it on the package. It's whole grain bread. I said, look at the package, and let's see if you see tiny little letters next to or above whole grain. It says made with. Yeah. Yeah, made with whole grain. And so a lot of times they use deceptive marketing. Yeah. And they'll deceive people and think, well, this is healthy because it says whole grain on it.
They know the buzzwords.
Made with whole grain. It may have 1% whole grain in it.
Yeah, wow.
So that kind of stuff is happening, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff in the food industry, and I believe, and I'm hoping, as as a functional medicine coach and what I do and how I encourage people to eat healthier, that this is going to come more and more to the light, what's happening in our food supply and our food industry, and how things need to change, and how things need to be cleaned up. And I know that's a mission that Kennedy has stated, that he wants to see happen, is the food industry clean up their act, start and get all the chemicals and even pesticides out of our foods.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that that it's being allowed, it's not being paid attention to, that we have foods that we're eating on a day-to-day basis that are loaded with pesticides, harmful pesticides, and that are contributing to a lot of the health issues that people are struggling with today. And our children that are growing up now are probably the least healthy of any decade or any century of children that that I can think of in the past that have been written about, talked about, recorded, where all this health records have been recorded. I don't believe that. I believe that the children of today are more compromised, less healthy than I know when I was growing up, for sure.
Yeah. So I'd be curious, what are your thoughts on some foods to eat? You talked about some breakfast things, and one of the reasons people do Pop-Tarts because it's just easy, it's convenient, and it's fast. I can, we're in a hurry or whatever.
Yeah.
But do you have any alternatives, or what are some thoughts on what should we be feeding?
Oh yeah, yeah. Lots of alternatives and lots of good things. As far as myself, my go-to breakfast food is fresh eggs.
Yeah.
Free range organic eggs. And I'll tell people all the time, make sure that's the kind you're getting.
Yeah.
Don't get the processed eggs. Fruit. I have fruit basically every day for breakfast. Berries particularly. And then also nuts, nut butter. There's two types of bread. We were talking about bread a moment ago. There's two kinds of bread I tell people that you should choose to eat if you're going to eat bread. One is sourdough bread.
Sourdough, okay.
And it's much healthier. Look at the ingredients. There's usually 4 or 5 ingredients on sourdough bread. You look at a bag of bread you buy at the grocery store, there's probably 20 ingredients in there. And the other one is Ezekiel bread.
Yeah.
Ezekiel bread is made based upon the recipe given in the Bible in Ezekiel 4:9. It is a true whole grain bread. It's made with sprouted grains and seeds, and it's different.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I smother it with peanut butter. Yeah, natural peanut butter. But anyway, those are the kind of things. But also smoothies. A lot of kids like smoothies, and that's a good, quick alternative breakfast for kids when you're in a hurry.
Yeah,
is do a smoothie. I make protein balls. I make these healthy, sugar-free protein balls. And you got all kind of recipes out there to make those. And also there are a few, not many, but there are a few healthy protein bars that you can get that aren't loaded with junk or that aren't loaded with artificial sweeteners. That's another thing on my 7 toxins list is the artificial sweeteners. And so much foods are loaded with these artificial sweeteners as well, instead of the natural sweeteners that they should be using. But as far as healthy alternatives, especially for breakfast and for kids, those are great ones.
Yeah, yeah.
The smoothies and the protein balls.
Yeah. Man, I would love to hear, as you're working with people, you figured out, there was a process to figure out what was going on with you. Like as you're working with people, how do you figure out what kind of nutritional component may be causing some of their issues? Like, is there a process there? Is there a test? Like, what do you do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, one of my philosophies is, and the people I work with and what I do is, let's test, don't guess. And there's too much guessing going on right now. Yeah. And I have people all the time that come to me and they've been to this doctor and that doctor and this practitioner, and they've seen all kind of healthcare providers, and nobody's done the testing. They're just guessing. and say, well, maybe it's this. Let's try this. Well, that didn't work. Well, let's try this. That didn't work. Let's try this. And so they're just shooting in the dark. Is what I tell people, and trying this and trying that. And I say,
but you can charge CPT codes for that.
oh yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like,
exactly,
I don't know about some
exactly. I say, well, let's do the test and let's see what the test shows. And there's specific tests that I recommend for people to do in your, of course, standard blood tests. I always want to see standard blood work, and I look at that very closely and I analyze it very precisely from a medical perspective and from a nutritional perspective. And that's something that's not being done in healthcare today. The blood work and lab tests are not being looked at from a nutritional perspective, because you can see deficiencies in the blood work a lot of times.
Yeah.
And if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And that's something I've been trained to do, is to look for that and see those nutritional deficiencies that get overlooked. I have people bring me blood work all the time and say, here's my blood work, but they told me everything was normal.
Yeah.
Everything was fine.
Yeah.
And I start going through it, and I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm just shaking my head. I said, I cannot believe you were told this.
Yeah.
And say, you got this is out of, you got all these different markers that are either high or low, or they're borderline high or low. And if and typically what happens is that if they're borderline, if they're in that range, that what they call that reference range, then they consider it normal.
Yeah.
But really, a lot of times it's not.
Yeah.
If you're right on the edge, you may be having some issues related to a deficiency that marker indicates you have. But because you're in that normal range, they just ignore it.
Yeah.
And so I see that all the time. But yeah, the testing is extremely important. It's a vital part of what I do, because that testing helps me help that person determine what the root cause is.
Yeah.
And it was the testing that helped me years ago determine that I had low stomach acid.
Yeah.
And which I wouldn't have known otherwise. And then, but I have people all the time that are struggling with mineral deficiencies, and the symptoms of mineral deficiencies, like magnesium deficiency is one, vitamin D is another one. I tell people all the time, vitamin D is the most important vitamin in your body. All the functions that it does, that it performs in our body, is amazing, and the level of protection that it gives us. I thought I had that thing silenced. The level of protection that it gives us is amazing against cancer, against heart disease, diabetes, and also protecting our immune system. Vitamin D is extremely important. And then I tell people the most important mineral is magnesium. Magnesium is over 300 different processes in our body that magnesium is needed for.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what we find in the testing that we do is that so many people are deficient in both of those minerals or both of those nutrients, and they have no clue. They don't know it because they're not being tested for it. Vitamin D is not a standard test, and magnesium is not a standard test. Not included on the standard blood work that's done every time a person goes for an annual checkup or whatever. They do this standard blood work, CBC, CMP, lipid panel, all those kind of things. Well, vitamin D and magnesium are not included in that. And they should be, because those two nutrients are so important for our health.
So do you have to go get a separate test for that?
Have to get a separate test.
Really?
Yeah. You have to ask for it, demand it. And a lot of times you have to demand it. And I had somebody tell me the other day, they went to the doctor's office, for their checkup, and they requested a vitamin D, and they said, well, your insurance won't cover that anymore. Why?
Yeah, that's what
Why
I'm about
won't
to
the
ask you.
insurance cover a test for vitamin D? It costs less than $20 for that test. And nobody's checking it. And so years ago, I started checking people's vitamin D levels. And I could count on my hands the number of people that I've seen over the past couple of decades that actually had optimal vitamin D levels.
Wow.
I rarely ever see anybody that's in the optimal range. It's very rare.
So I'm curious, like if that is, low or too high vitamin D and those kind of things. Like, what are some of the issues that causes? Like, what are some of the bodily functions that you see in there?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I love talking about this because a lot of people are not aware of vitamin D and the symptoms associated with the deficiency of vitamin D. Number one is energy. If you have low vitamin D, and the lower it is, the more it affects you. Fatigue. People, and I've seen this a lot of times with people who have extremely low vitamin D. They start taking vitamin D. It's like you turn the lights on in a dark room. They just come alive.
Yeah, yeah.
And and then another major one is depression. Vitamin D deficiency is a root cause of depression in a lot of people. And that's why this time of the year, which we're in right now in the winter, is when people struggle more with depression. And they call it, there's actually a condition called SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And so people deal with what they call seasonal affective disorder, which is struggling with depression during the winter months because less sunshine. Because that's our primary source of vitamin D production in our body is sunshine.
Yeah.
And another thing too, contributing to this, epidemic of depression we have in the world today, and is because people are not getting enough sunshine. They're not outside enough. Yeah. We're working inside all the time. And even when you are outside, people have been scared to death they're going to get skin cancer, and they're covering themselves up, and they're not getting the sunlight. They're not getting sun exposure, so naturally they're going to have low vitamin D. And then they're not being tested. Yeah. And it's totally been overlooked. And so instead of throwing throwing something at somebody, but actually instead of prescribing somebody a antidepressant drug, maybe you need to test the vitamin D and see if they have low vitamin D. And that's not happening.
Interesting.
People come in and start complaining of the symptoms of depression. They get a prescription for some type of antidepressant. Vitamin D is never checked to see if that's the root cause. Wow. And that's the thing with our what I call our sick care system today. Is we don't have a healthcare system anymore. We have a sick care system that's designed to manage disease. Yeah. Yeah. And not to find the root cause of it. And so I'm passionate about that, and that's what I'm shifted to years ago because of my own health experiences and because of seeing my patients' lives being changed as well with things I would be recommending to them, natural things and supplemental things, and not just supplements, but sometimes natural therapies. Yeah. Just doing things that they had never been told that they should do physically. Yeah. Like go walk. Get out and walk every day. Breathe. Yeah. Do some deep breathing exercises. And one of my favorite ones is...
Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Cory Lee Show. Y'all, I am on a mission to build leaders and to transform culture. So if you're looking for a speaker who speaks directly to the heart, a mentor to come alongside you and your team, or if you're in a position where you're looking for a personal coach who embraces where you are and also believes in who you could become, then I would be honored to walk this path with you. Simply reach out to me on my email at Cory@CoryLeeLeadership.com. Look, let's make your vision a reality. Contact me and together we'll navigate the path from aspiration to achievement. Your transformation, it starts now.
Something I call grounding and getting out and putting your bare feet on the ground. Yeah. And letting our bodies get neutralized, so to speak, from electron transfer from our bodies to the earth. Yeah. And people didn't wear shoes several hundred years ago, or at least not like we do today. Yeah. And they spent more time with their bare feet on the ground. But that's something I encourage people to do is to do that. It's very helpful.
Yeah, man, that's good. I'm curious your thoughts on this. I know several guys, they go get and it's marketed very well, the testosterone shots, the T shots. Good, bad? Any thoughts on any of that?
Oh, yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Oh yeah, yeah. I get asked about this all the time with men in particular, but sometimes women as well.
Yeah.
And it's a huge market now, and you see what they call these T clinics
Yep.
popping up all over the place. And I've seen this happen over the past decade. These T clinics, being opened up in different places, specializing in testosterone therapy.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing, they're prescribing what's called hormone replacement. And goes, testosterone is a primary male hormone, but women have it as well. We all have the same hormones, men and women. We all have the same hormones. Testosterone is our primary hormone. Estrogen is women's primary hormone. But there are numerous women clients that I've worked with that are getting testosterone injections on a regular basis. But it's mostly men. And so our testosterone levels naturally drop as we age, of course. But here's the alarming thing, is you've got 30, 40-year-old guys that have very low testosterone that shouldn't have.
Yeah.
What's causing that?
Yeah.
What's going on? Diet, what you're eating, what you're putting in your body, what chemicals that are disrupting what we call endocrine function. They're endocrine disruptors. Our hormone production is part of our endocrine system in our body. And we have these chemicals, and they've been identified. There's certain chemicals that are in the environment, in our foods, that are called endocrine disruptors. And it's affecting both men and women.
Yeah.
And causing a lot of hormonal issues. This is probably something I do more than anything else in my work as far as functional medicine, is helping people struggling with hormone imbalances.
Really?
Mostly women.
Yeah.
Because their estrogen levels are too low, too high. The progesterone levels too low, too high. Same thing with testosterone. And what's causing that? It's normal for them to change throughout the years as we transition from one phase of life to the other. But you've got a 30-something-year-old that's got extremely low testosterone. That shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Or you've got as far as a man, then you've got a woman that's 30-something years old, and her estrogen levels are through the roof, or they're bottomed out. She basically has none. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And it's these chemicals a lot of times that are causing the disruption, and nutrition too, because a lot of the foods that we're eating are loaded with chemicals and hormones.
Yeah.
And the hormones in the foods are disrupting our hormones and throwing our hormone balances off. But they can be restored. That's the good news.
Nice.
And that's what I tell people when they come to me and they're having all these issues, and they've been diagnosed with this, diagnosed with that, and they're taking this medication, that medication, nothing seems to be working, or they're getting testosterone injections like you're talking about, and they got all these side effects from it. You take a female and you jack her testosterone levels way too high, she's going to start developing male tendencies. She's going to start growing facial hair. Hair may start thinning on top of her head. She may develop acne. I've seen 50-year-old women with acne.
Wow.
That supposed to have got through that phase as a teenager.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have acne as a 50-year-old.
Yeah.
But what's causing that? Testosterone shot through the roof from these testosterone injections they're getting.
Wow.
And so that's something that it really disturbs me, because they're not being properly tested either. But it's hormone replacement is what it is. But there are natural things a person can do to increase testosterone levels if they need to, or these other hormones that need to be increased. There's natural things they can do to do that. There's supplements that can be taken that will help. Exercise is a big thing, especially with men when it comes to testosterone. We need to exercise more.
Yeah.
we need to be doing resistance exercise, building muscle, because when you build muscle, you increase your testosterone. So there's a whole bunch of things that can be done other than going to the replacement. But the thing about this replacement stuff It's quick. It's easy. You get fast results.
Yeah, quick,
You don't have
fast,
to put
easy.
forth a lot of effort.
Microwave society, I tell you what.
Exactly. Microwave medicine is what I call it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. And I'm with you on that. And that's interesting. What about a lot of it does come down to what I'm hearing is diet, obviously exercise and then some supplements. So it sounds to me like you're a proponent of certain supplements. And so are there certain ones that you really that you've seen that can cover a wide gamut of issues or that you really are for?
Oh yeah. People ask me, about this all the time as well. Well, what supplement should I take? What about this one? What about that one? What's good? What's not? There's a lot of junk products out there on the market when it comes to supplements. Just like our food, our supplements are contaminated as well. And it really disturbs me. I pick up a bottle of so-called multivitamin mineral off the shelf in the store. Start looking at the label. Artificial, all kind of artificial ingredients in it, artificial sweeteners, artificial flavorings, artificial dyes and chemicals. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
And I've got a bottle sitting on my shelf that I show people all the time. It's got 9 or 10 different artificial ingredients in it that we don't need to be putting in our bodies.
Wow.
And this is in a so-called multivitamin, supposed to be good for your health.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there are multivitamins that do cover a whole array of things, and that's what I recommend to people. But more ones that are more food source are ones that are not totally synthetic. They're more naturally sourced multivitamins and minerals.
Yeah.
But because a lot of what is out there too, they're synthetically made in the lab. They're not food source. God designed our foods to give us the nutrients that we need. Yeah. And, the vitamins, the minerals that we're supposed to be getting, we should be getting from real food, fruits, vegetables, different plants, the seeds, the nuts, all of these things, the nutrients that our body needs. And we're not eating enough of those real foods. And that's why it's necessary for a lot of times, especially in today's society, for a person to take a multivitamin.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting it in the food supply. So you have to get it somewhere. But if you're going to get it somewhere, don't take a multivitamin that's loaded with all kinds of chemicals and junk. Get one that's clean, that's more food source, that has, and you can look at the ingredients and see, if you don't see a bunch of, foreign words, so to speak, or things you can't understand and read, hard to pronounce, then just like with the foods, same thing with the multivitamins. But there are certain ones that I recommend for people, with certain companies that I work with that have a great reputation of supplying clean products that are mostly naturally sourced. You're not necessarily going to be able to naturally source everything.
Yeah.
But you want something that's majority of it's naturally sourced. And, as far as that covers a lot of things. And I'll say one other one that covers a lot with people as far as with different types of health issues that people may be struggling with that are related to inflammation. And a lot of our health issues are inflammatory issues and inflammation in our body that's contributing and causing a lot of the health problems that we have is fish oil.
Fish oil. Yeah.
Fish oil products, or for a person who is vegan, they don't want to do any kind of animal products. You can now get the omega-3s. That's what fish oils are also known as omega-3s. You can also get them from algae. They're sourced from algae because that's what the fish eat.
Yeah.
And that's where some of the omegas are coming from, the plants. And so there are other plants that contain omegas. Walnuts is one of them. I'm a big believer and fan of eating walnuts and other nuts on a regular basis. They contain these omega-3s, which help control inflammation in our body in a variety of different ways. And so something that covers a lot, as you ask, that's another one.
Okay. So kind of what I heard you say is fish oil, some fatty 3 acids, or there that'll help with inflammation. And then when I'm looking for a multivitamin, what I heard you say was something that is food sourced. So I'm looking for that, and I'm also looking on the back, making sure it doesn't start with the end of the alphabet, XYZ. What like I can't pronounce the whole thing. Like it's so. The less ingredients, the better, and ones that I can actually pronounce, the better. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, what you want to look for is on a label with any kind of supplement is what's usually identified as other ingredients.
Yeah.
You'll have all your nutrients listed, then sometimes it'll say on the label, not always, sometimes it'll say other ingredients. In those other ingredients, you're going to see stuff like aspartame, artificial sweetener. You may see BHT, butylated hydroxytoluene, which is a chemical preservative that's used in the dry cleaning industry. And you may see BHA, another chemical that's used in the chemical industry. All kind of things like that you'll see sometimes on these labels listed other ingredients. Then you got other ones that are very deceptive. And this is very annoying to me, because I see this all the time in these multivitamin companies, which are owned by the big pharma.
Yeah.
Big pharma owns all these multivitamin companies. And they will mix in all of these toxic ingredients in with the vitamins and minerals. You'll see 2 or 3 vitamins listed, then you'll see one of these ingredients in there in between. Then you'll see several more vitamins listed, another ingredient squeezed in there. And so people don't see that, and most people don't even read the labels anyway.
Yeah.
But other companies, the reputable companies, a lot of times they'll list theirs as other ingredients, what's in there, and it's most of the time it's going to be the fillers and the binders that are plant-based most of the time. They're used to make that product.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So I know you mentioned there are some reputable companies. Can you share? Who would you recommend?
Yeah. I don't mind that at all. There are quite a few that I work with and use and promote their products and use their products myself and recommend them to my clients that have been around for a long time. Probably the one that's been around the longest, almost 100 years now.
Wow.
The company called Standard Process.
Okay.
Standard Process is a company that only sells to practitioners.
Okay.
You won't find them in stores. You can't go to Walgreens or Walmart and get Standard Process. They're plant-based products. Standard Process has their own organic farm where they grow most of the fruits and vegetables that are used in their products. And they're one of the most respected companies in the world. Been around, like I said, they were started by a doctor named Dr. Cory Lee back in the 1930s.
Wow.
And so they're a company I use, and I get results with their products. And that's another thing, too. I look for products I can get results with.
Yeah.
Another company I use is called Protocol for Life Balance, actually, which is a division of Now Foods. And Now Foods, you can get their products in health food stores.
Yeah.
They're a quality company, been around for about 70 years, family-owned company out of Illinois. And I use a lot of their products as well. There's another one that's a practitioner-only company called Zymogen. And a lot of practitioners are very familiar, and they have quality products. They've been around for a long, long time as well. There's another company that was started by a doctor that I met several years ago. He taught some of the courses that I took in functional medicine. His name was Dr. Jack Hens. He's gone on to be with the Lord, but he was a pharmacist and a doctor.
Okay.
And he started a nutritional company called Natural Creations. They only sell to practitioners as well. But as far as products that a person can walk in the store and get, the Now Foods is a really, really good one that they can find out there in most places. Another one is Nature's Way.
Okay.
Nature's Way products are most of them are good products, good clean products. They're a reputable company that's been around for a long, long time as well.
Yeah, I know I've seen that one out a good bit, so that's good.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, I'd be curious too, kind of jumping back in. Well, let me ask this. A lot of people right now, especially if young kids, you're eating out a lot. So
yeah.
I can't really look at the food products or the nutritional label as I go out to some of these restaurants. What basic principles to stay away from? What am I looking for? Any suggestions there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, with the restaurants and where kids are going, especially teenagers, they're going to the fast food places and eating fast food stuff. And, it's funny to me, I see people that have fast food products, and there was a fitness coach that used to be in Amory that had it in his display case in his office. I won't mention the name of the fast food restaurant, but he had a hamburger and some and I think fries as well, sitting in on the shelf in his office. They'd been there for years.
Yeah.
It still looked like it did the day he bought it. Yeah. And so what does that tell you?
Yeah, some kind of big time preservative in that.
Preservatives.
Is that even a food?
Yeah. And so, they're loaded with chemicals, loaded with all kind of preservatives. And, today in our, what we have with fast food restaurants are all pretty much like that. But they are some of them are offering some healthier choices, salads.
Yeah.
And you can get a salad. That's what I recommend. Usually I go to a fast food restaurant. That's what I get. I get a salad and I'll get some meat to go on top of it. Mm-hmm. There's not but one fast food restaurant I really eat at anymore. And I don't know if I can say it or not. I
you
guess
can say, hey,
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I was gonna say, I know you go in Chick-fil-A, so go on and say it. Yeah.
And because I can get a good salad there, and I can get some chicken nuggets to go on top of it, which I don't eat a lot of chicken, especially at a restaurant. I eat free range chicken if I eat it at home. I'm looking for chicken that's not loaded with antibiotics and steroids. As far as any of the restaurants now, most of all of them, you can get a salad. It's not going to be the best salad in the world, of course, but it's better than a hamburger that will sit on your shelf and still be, eatable a decade later.
Yeah.
And also in standard restaurants, where sit-down restaurants where you go in, you enjoy a good meal. I prefer to eat salads there as well, or get entrees that have fish. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fish eater.
Yeah.
Ocean fish, not catfish, not the bottom feeders, but I like the ocean fish, salmon, mai, halibut, those kind of things, cod. A good fish that contain those omega-3s that I was talking about a moment ago. And then some type of vegetables go along with it, if not a salad. I get the fish or in a salad, or get the salad with a slab of salmon on top of it. That kind of stuff. A lot of restaurants do that. The vegetables, usually you can get all kinds of vegetable choices in restaurants a lot of times. And you really can include French fries in that. Now, a sweet potato, that's another thing. I love sweet potatoes, so a lot of times I'll get a meal that has fish and a sweet potato and some vegetables.
Yeah.
Great choices, great things to eat, and they're good for you. But I love that kind of stuff, and that's the kind of things I eat at home all the time as well.
Yeah.
So when I go out to a restaurant, I'm looking for good, healthy foods like that. Yeah. And thankfully, a lot of restaurants are being more conscious of that, and they're offering those kind of selections now, where they used to not do that.
Yeah.
And but speaking of fish, I'll just mention this. I mentioned it's one of the best sources of omega-3s.
Yeah.
Is ocean fish, and salmon being one of the best of those different choices we have as fish. But I tell people all this all the time, kind of jokingly, but it's really true. I eat like Jesus said. Yeah, because he was a fish eater.
Yeah.
Because
there
you read all the stories in the Bible about Jesus eating. What was he eating and what was he feeding people? Fish. Yeah. So, if you want to eat the healthiest protein, that's it.
Yeah.
And then my other healthy source of protein is eggs.
Eggs.
So eggs and fish, God made foods.
Yeah.
And they're nutrient dense, nutrient rich. Both of them are.
Yeah. I like that. Usually that's when we go out to eat at a restaurant, I usually go with the salmon. I like a good salmon as well.
Yeah.
Man, that's good stuff. Let me, if someone were to listen, it's like, man, you know what? I'm going to do some of that. I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to get me a good multivitamin, and I'm going to start trying to eat healthier. How much better are they going to feel?
Well, that can be relative depending on the individual, how healthy you already are. But for a lot of people who are struggling, and a lot of people who are not doing what you just laid out there, and the plan you just laid out, they're gonna feel great.
Yeah, energy-wise, how about that?
Yeah, in a short period of time, they're gonna light up.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen to people so many times. Just making few little subtle changes, they light up.
Yeah,
they light up. I'll tell them. It's talking about exercise and eating habits all together. I tell a story in my book about my dad who passed away several years ago with leukemia and lymphoma. When he was first diagnosed with lymphoma, and he also was before that he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and I kept preaching to him, you got to change your habits, you got to do this, you got to do that. And then when the lymphoma, the leukemia, he had CLL, chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is, you can live for years with that. You just feel horrible. And he was feeling bad. He'd done some treatments, and it just wasn't seem to be working. And I kept telling him, look, you need to be moving more. You need to be exercising more. And you need to be changing the way you eat. He wouldn't listen to me.
Mm.
And this happens all the time. Somebody come up to him in church one day that had CLL, heard he had it, and this guy had it. He said, well, let me tell you what I've been doing. He told him all the stuff he was doing. And he started doing it.
Yeah.
He wouldn't listen to me, but he listened to some other guy he didn't even know. It came up to him at church one day and telling him, this stuff. And so he started doing it.
Yeah.
And one of the main things that this guy told him I do, he said, I walk every day.
Yeah.
And my dad felt horrible. He couldn't hardly walk. He couldn't walk far at all.
Yeah.
And he said, but I'm going to do it.
Mm.
And this guy encouraged him, and he started walking. And he could only walk a very short distance when he first started, but he kept going. And every day he'd walk a little bit more than he did the day before, a little bit more, a little bit more. He got to where he's walking several miles a day.
Wow.
Every day. And it changed his life. And I believe without a doubt, he lived years longer than he would have if he had not started doing it.
Yeah. Wow.
And he started eating better too.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Well, I know we're getting close on time, but I want to ask you this: caffeine. Thoughts on caffeine?
Caffeine?
Yes, sir.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
I get asked about that all the time.
I figured so.
Yeah. You've got people out there that are anti-caffeine, and they say you should never drink caffeine. That's horrible. And I'll tell people, well, that may be true if you're drinking the wrong kind.
Yeah.
Because so many people drink coffee that is loaded with chemicals and pesticides, just like the foods.
Yeah.
So I tell you, if you get a good, clean, organic coffee that doesn't have all this pesticides and junk in it, you should enjoy it.
Mm.
It's coffee is loaded with nutrients.
Yeah.
And what they call polyphenols, which help with blood flow and circulation and inflammation in our bodies, and cancer protection as well. So I'm a coffee drinker.
Yeah.
Actually, I brought some with me here.
What kind you like? What kind of coffee you go with?
I go with I try different ones.
Yeah.
I get organic coffees, but whatever I drink, I try to make sure it's organic coffee.
So you're looking for organic is what you're looking for in a coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for organic, or ones that sometimes they can't be labeled organic, but they really are.
Yeah.
Because to be labeled organic, you have to go through all this government red tape stuff and spend thousands and thousands of dollars. And I know some coffee companies are not willing to do that, and and that's fine. But they still have good quality cups, and that's something you can ask. And I've asked, about that. And there's a mutual friend of ours that has a coffee company, and they have
My Brother's Cup. Is that?
My Brother's Cup.
Yeah.
And,
We got a big part of it
their
in there.
coffee is really organic, but they don't label it that way because it's they're going through the process and paying all that money is not not worth it.
Yeah, we're big proponents of My Brother's Cup, by the way, and so big shout out to them. Go look them up.
Great coffee too.
Yeah.
I love it. And but there are different ones that I try. I try different ones all the time. I love trying different things and trying them out. And even you were talking about the supplements a moment ago. Usually, if I'm going to recommend a supplement, a lot of times I try them myself first.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, coffee. And I tell people you can overdo anything.
Yeah.
And so, as far as the caffeine, some people are super caffeine sensitive. And if they are, then they need to avoid it.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that I could drink a whole pot of coffee at 11 o'clock and lay down and go to sleep. I'm not caffeine sensitive, thankfully. And it doesn't bother me like it does some other people. But I have patients that if they drink 1 cup of coffee in the morning, they can't sleep at night.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And so it's an individual thing. But as far as coffee being healthy for you, yes, it can be very. If you keep it down to no more than 2, maximum 3 cups a day, and and you drink a good clean coffee.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it is a question I used to get all the time, and another one that you've already answered, but I got it all the time. People talk about eggs because there would be so many studies. This study would say, "Oh, eggs are healthy," and "Oh, no, you can't eat the yellow in the eggs." And it's like, man, just eat the egg. You know, like it's So anyway,
well,
the free
the main
range,
thing with that is cholesterol.
Yeah.
We were told years ago that cholesterol is a cause of heart disease, but it's not. And some doctor heard me say that, say, "You're crazy." It is too. But there's more studies coming out showing that cholesterol has been made out to be an enemy that it's not. We can't live without cholesterol. And if I tell people this all the time, if you were to zap all the cholesterol out of your body at one time, you'd die very quickly because it has so many functions in our body. And our brain is partly made of cholesterol. Our hormones, we were talking about a moment ago, they come from cholesterol.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I see people with low testosterone. I didn't even think about mentioning this a moment ago. I was talking about testosterone. One of the reasons why so many people have low testosterone is because their cholesterol is too low. Because they're on a statin drug that's lowering their cholesterol too low.
Wow.
And they can't make hormones anymore.
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot in my testing that I do because the testing shows that. But with the eggs, the yolk contains a lot of cholesterol.
Yeah.
And people were told years ago, and I was told years ago, you shouldn't be eating eggs because it's going to make your cholesterol go up. It's not true. And but like I mentioned earlier about the eggs, if you're eating good free range eggs that chickens hadn't been fed all these hormones or been shot up with all these hormones and steroids, you're good to go with an egg. It's one of the healthiest foods on the planet.
Wow.
And one of the most nutritious foods on the planet. If you look at the nutritional profile of an egg, it's loaded with vitamins and minerals.
Yeah.
Not just fat and protein, because we think about eggs being a good source of protein and a source of good fat with the yolk. But there's all kind of nutrients in an egg.
Wow. I got one last question. Well, I got 2 questions for you.
Right.
One of them is how do people contact you? But the first one is, all right, let's say President Trump calls. Maybe he listens to this podcast.
Yeah.
He's coming into presidency, and he says, we want that guy right there to be in charge of the U.S. health and whatever it is, all right?
Yeah.
So let's say you're in charge of all the health of the United States. What is just one thing, what's one thing you would do to get us headed into the right direction of being health care instead of sick care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I would say in that regard would be what I was talking about a moment ago with testing and not guessing. Yeah. Do the proper tests that need to be done. And you know why a lot of people don't get testing? It's because the insurance won't pay for it.
Yeah.
And if the insurance won't pay for it, they're not going to do it. They won't do it. And there's so many tests out there that can provide answers that people are just dying for. Yeah, no pun intended. They're dying for an answer to what their health problem is, and they won't get the test done to find out because the insurance won't pay for it.
Wow.
And some tests are expensive, but some are not. And an insurance won't pay for a $20 vitamin D test. That's a problem. And so, I would say let's make these tests available that can help people get to the root cause of the problem. And that's what it's all about, is getting to the root cause. Because if you can get to the root, you can turn things around. You can correct a problem. You can quote unquote cure a disease, or you can treat a problem that needs to be treated and treat it properly. Instead of throwing something at it that's just going to relieve the symptoms. And that's what we got now with the sick care system. We're getting symptom relief, but we're not getting reversal of disease. We're getting disease management.
Well, and then going into what you said right there, the big pharma companies, they have a lot of the vitamins, and so they're injecting with, they've got all the stuff, and so it keeps us in a cycle. Well, Phil, I've really enjoyed it. You've added a ton of value. Let's say somebody's out there listening, they want to get your book, or there's like, man, I know you do health coaching, and that's what you do. I really want to reach out to him for that and see how you can help them. How do people contact you?
Well, probably the easiest way is just go to my website, philcarsonwellness.com.
philcarsonwellness.com.
And everything's there on the website. There's a lot of free resources there. We're in the process of launching a new online community called In Health Life Community that people can participate in, become a member of as well. The name is based upon scripture in the Bible that's been a favorite of mine for years. 3 John 2. My friends, I pray that you prosper in all things and be in health, even as your soul prospers.
Amen.
And so community is based upon that to help people live healthier lives, body, soul, and spirit. And so that's being launched, matter of fact, this month.
Wow.
We're launching the community this month. Also the book, the book's available on the website, and also the book's available on Amazon as well.
There you go. Awesome. Well, we'll have that in the show notes below. Phil, the way it's PHILCARSON, wellness.com. We'll have that in the show notes below. And so, I truly appreciate you coming on. You've added a ton of value, and so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And that's what I love doing, adding value to people and helping people, learn the things that can help them live a better life.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Cory. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for taking a listen. I know today has added value to you. And if there's been something that stands out to you, comment in the show notes below. Reach out to Phil here if you're looking for some help. I know several friends that have reached out to him. You've been able to help. And so I think it's really cool that you're doing the community group there. And so if that's something that you're looking for, reach out to, you don't have to do it alone, right? And so reach out to him. He would love to help you. And so appreciate you guys taking a listen. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with the latest episodes of the Cory Lee Show. Hope you guys have a great day, and God bless.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope I have added value to you. And if you have found value in this episode, let me know. Drop a comment and make sure you share with a friend or family member. See you next episode.